and welcome to this video all about thread. Today I'm going to talk about the different types of thread that are available and the different types of hand sewing that they're suitable for. I will also touch a little bit on machine sewing too, but my main focus is always going to be hand sewing. I have quite a variety of threads now that I've built up this collection over the years, and I like to experiment with different types of thread to find what I really like. I also like having a variety of colours. It's really nice to have lots of different embroidery threads that are different colours, but for general hand sewing, for general English paper piecing, you actually don't really need that many different colours. You can get started with just a nice neutral colour. But we'll get into that in a minute. So threads can be made of different fibres: wool, linen, silk, but today I'm going to focus on cotton and polyester, as they're the most common types of thread used in hand sewing and quilting. To determine the thickness of a thread, there are a few different systems in place, but I'm going to focus on the weight system, as I think this is the most commonly used one amongst quilters today. So the lower the number, the thicker the thread. So for example, a 50 weight thread is much finer than, say, a 12 weight thread. I use cotton and polyester threads the most for my hand sewing, so let's look at those. When it comes to polyester thread, there are quite a lot of really good brands on the market that make high quality polyester threads. These are some of the ones that I've tried over the years. There's Wonderfil Deco Bob, which is an 80 weight thread, and this is also used in the bobbin of sewing machines as well. It can be used there. That's a really nice, fine, strong thread. Wonderfil also make Invisifil, and this is even finer. This is a 100 weight thread, and this is the thread that I use almost all of the time with my tiny English paper piecing projects. I really like to use polyester for those, and I choose this because your stitches barely show. It has the ability to blend in with the fabric really well, and because the thread is so fine, it just hardly shows up. It sort of sinks into your fabric and you can't see it at all, and I like the result that gives. I tend to use the white colour almost all of the time, but if I'm ever working with darker fabrics like blues, reds, even yellows, I do find that matching the colour really does help. But the white and also the paler pastels just work for most of the coloured fabrics that I use. Polyester thread is more slippery to work with than cotton thread, but it is a different sewing experience, and it did take me some getting used to, so that it wouldn't slip out of the eye of the needle every time I was sewing. Some people tie it on, but I don't. I've just got used to it now, and I really love working with it. It's a really, really nice thread. You may have heard it said that if you're working with cotton fabric, you should be using cotton thread rather than polyester, and it is believed by some people that polyester may damage fabric over time. I personally don't have any experience of this, and I tend to use polyester for the more decorative pieces that won't get any wear and tear anyway. I like to use the cotton thread for cushions and quilts, and I don't have any problems with any damage at all on anything that I've used polyester thread on. But that again is my experience, but it is widely used now amongst quilters, and especially people who do English paper piecing. Moving on to the cotton threads now, I'm looking at Aurifil 80 weight, and this is the Aurifil 50 weight. Both are really commonly used amongst quilters. in sewing machines and also by hand. The 80 weight is very common for English paper piecing, and I tend to use the 50 weight in my machine a lot. I really like it for machine sewing. But I tend to use this Sajou Filo Chinois for English paper piecing quite a lot, rather than just your typical cotton thread, because this is a waxed thread which makes it a bit stronger. You will find that when you're using an incredibly fine cotton thread with English paper piecing and you're dragging your thread back and forth over the paper template, it is going to wear and eventually snap. But I like using this Sajou thread because it has that wax coating on it. It makes it even stronger and it lasts longer. It feels different to using an ordinary cotton thread because it's stiffer. As you can see, it threads through the eye of the needle really easily because it's got that stiffness to it. And it does tend to have a bit of memory from being wound around the spool, but I just straighten it out with my fingers and quite soon it becomes straight and you can get sewing with it. So it takes a bit of getting used to. If you're used to other types of thread, it feels different, but it's fine, it's strong, and I've really enjoyed using this thread. It's a gloving thread, which means that in the past it was used for making gloves, and now it's used for all sorts of things: English paper piecing, applique, all sorts of hand sewing, and I think it's a really great choice. My other choice of cotton thread that I really like to use is Wonderfil Athena cotton thread, which you can see here in a few staple colours. This is a super high quality cotton thread. It's made from Egyptian cotton and it is incredibly smooth and it just glides through the fabric. It's also very fine. It is a 60 weight thread, so it means your stitches aren't going to show too much either. And it's really lovely to sew with. It's soft and just a really nice thread. Here I'm holding the 50 weight Aurifil and the 80 weight, and the Athena comes in between those in terms of thickness. It's right in the middle. So it's a really nice thread if you find the 80 weight a bit too thin and the 50 weight a bit too thick. The Athena is a really great weight to go for, and I just love sewing with it. So to compare it fairly, I'm doing the same bit of EPP, the same shape, using the same fabric. So then you can see what the stitches look like, and that they don't really show up very much on this at all either. So it's a really nice thread to use. When I made my hexagon sewing case, I actually used a mixture of cotton and polyester threads for the EPP part. So where you can see visible stitches, that's a cotton thread. It tends to stay on the top of the fabric a bit more. And where you can't see any stitches, that's where I've used polyester, which tends to sink in a little bit more. So it's just a really nice way to see the difference and to see the different look it gives. I love making things by hand, and even though I tend to go for the less visible stitches, when you can see your stitches, that just shows how much work and effort has gone into it and gives it that handmade charm. Again, I've used the polyester thread on my storage basket here, and you just cannot see those stitches at all. They just completely blend in. So really it is all about personal preference and what sort of look you're going for. I know a lot of people get frustrated when they first start out with English paper piecing when they can see their stitches. So really top tips are perhaps use a finer needle, a finer thread, and make sure your stitches are definitely straight. If you make your stitches diagonal, they're going to show up a lot more than if they were made straight. And also just embrace your stitches, because they are an extension of you and they show how much effort you've put into what you make. When it comes to embroidery, I either like to use the typical DMC threads that you can get in many different places, they're widely available, or I like to use the Saju thread, which is a really nice alternative. It's beautiful, fine, has gorgeous colours, it's not as shiny as DMC, it's finer because there are only 4 strands, but you do actually get more on the card than you do in a skein of DMC. And for hand quilting, I'm really enjoying using 12 weight threads. This is the Aurifil 12 weight in a really nice neutral colour, and I like doing hand quilting with that. And I've recently started using the Wonderful Fruity 12 weight thread, which comes in gorgeous variegated colours, and it really adds a nice decorative look to your pieces, and it glides through the fabric. It's really beautiful. So on this mini quilt I used the Wonderful Fruity for the decorative stitches, and the little bird here I did all the little birds with the Saju embroidery thread, and it just gives a really nice look, and I'm really happy with the results that I got with those threads. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that it helped to explain a little bit more about threads and the different weights and the different fibres and what makes them really good for different types of sewing. Please let me know if you've got any questions, and let me know in the comments what's your favourite type of thread. What do you use the most? Thanks again for watching. Take care and see you soon. Bye!